Breaking news from Ukraine tonight. Massive explosions rocked multiple cities, plunging homes into darkness. Sirens wailed as residents scrambled for safety. Power lines were hit, leaving thousands without heat or light. This escalating conflict has caught the world's attention as families face fear and uncertainty while emergency crews race to restore order amidst chaos. Explosions shook several Ukrainian cities overnight as the conflict with Russia intensified once again. Air raid sirens echoed through residential areas, forcing families to rush into shelters. The attacks caused widespread fear and uncertainty, reminding civilians that the war continues to disrupt everyday life across the country. Multiple regions reported sudden power outages after strikes damaged key energy infrastructure. Entire neighborhoods were plunged into darkness, leaving homes without electricity, heating, or communication. As winter temperatures persist, these blackouts create serious challenges for ordinary citizens trying to stay warm and connected. Ukrainian officials stated that emergency services were deployed immediately following the attacks. Firefighters, medical teams, and utility workers worked under difficult conditions to assist affected areas. Despite ongoing risks, crews focused on restoring essential services and helping civilians trapped by infrastructure damage. Residents described tense moments as explosions interrupted their sleep and daily routines. Many families spent hours in underground shelters, relying on limited supplies and mobile phone lights. Social media quickly filled with images of darkened streets, damaged buildings, and communities struggling to cope. Hospitals in several cities switched to backup generators to ensure uninterrupted medical care. Doctors and nurses continued treating patients despite unstable power supplies. Health officials warned that repeated outages could endanger critical services, especially for children, elderly patients, and those requiring life-saving equipment. Ukraine's leadership strongly condemned the strikes, accusing Russia of targeting civilian infrastructure. Officials emphasized that energy facilities are vital for survival, not military operations. They urged the international community to recognize the humanitarian impact of these attacks and respond with increased support. Russian authorities claimed the strikes were aimed at military-related objectives, denying intentional harm to civilians. However, independent analysts noted that energy networks directly affect households, hospitals, and water systems. This disagreement continues to fuel global debate over the conduct and consequences of the war. Satellite imagery and field reports indicated damage to power stations and transmission lines. Experts explained that such infrastructure is difficult to repair quickly, especially during ongoing hostilities. Repeated attacks can compound the damage, prolonging outages and increasing pressure on emergency response systems. For many Ukrainians, daily life has become a cycle of adaptation and resilience. Families stock candles, batteries, and portable chargers in anticipation of blackouts. Schools and businesses adjust schedules, while local communities share resources to help neighbors endure extended periods without power. The United States closely monitored the situation as news of the strike spread. American officials reaffirmed support for Ukraine's sovereignty and security. Statements from Washington emphasized continued humanitarian aid, defensive assistance, and coordination with allies to address the escalating crisis. NATO countries also expressed concern, warning that attacks on civilian infrastructure could destabilize the broader region. Military analysts discussed the potential long-term effects on European energy security. The conflict's ripple effects continue to reach far beyond Ukraine's borders. Energy infrastructure has become a central element of modern warfare in this conflict. Analysts suggest that blackouts are used to weaken morale and disrupt normal life. Such strategies aim to increase psychological pressure on civilians during harsh winter conditions. Ukrainian authorities called on international partners to strengthen air defense systems. They argue that improved defenses could reduce damage to power, facilities, and protect population centers. These requests highlight the ongoing need for advanced technology and coordinated global support. Across affected cities, volunteers organized relief efforts almost immediately. Community centers opened as warming shelters, offering hot meals and blankets. Local groups distributed flashlights, generators, and food supplies, demonstrating strong civic unity amid ongoing adversity. Markets around the world reacted cautiously to reports of renewed escalation. Energy prices showed signs of volatility as investors assessed potential supply disruptions. Economists noted that prolonged instability in Eastern Europe continues to influence global economic confidence. Diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict remain stalled, despite repeated international appeals. Talks have failed to produce lasting ceasefires, leaving civilians vulnerable to ongoing attacks. Many observers fear that without renewed negotiations, the humanitarian toll will continue to rise. Civilians remain caught between military strategies and geopolitical ambitions. Ordinary people face the consequences of decisions made far beyond their control. Each strike reinforces the reality that modern conflicts deeply affect non-combatants, often more than those directly involved in fighting. The psychological impact of constant alarms and blackouts is significant. Mental health experts warn of rising stress, anxiety, and trauma among residents. Children, in particular, struggle to cope with disrupted routines and persistent uncertainty about their safety. Despite hardships, stories of resilience continue to emerge. Teachers conduct lessons online when possible, while neighbors check on one another during outages. These acts of solidarity offer hope and demonstrate the determination of communities under pressure. International humanitarian organizations have increased aid deliveries to affected regions. Supplies include generators, medical equipment, and winter clothing. Relief agencies stress that sustained assistance is essential as infrastructure repairs may take weeks or months. The conflict has reshaped how civilians prepare for daily life. Emergency kits, backup power sources, and shelter plans have become common household necessities. What was once unthinkable is now part of routine survival planning. Experts caution that continued strikes on infrastructure could have long-term consequences. Damage to power systems affects water supply, communications, and industrial production. Rebuilding will require substantial resources even after hostilities eventually end. Media coverage worldwide has highlighted the human cost of the blackouts. Images of dark cities contrast sharply with modern expectations of constant electricity. These visuals underscore how quickly conflict can reverse decades of development. For the United States audience, the situation serves as a reminder of global interconnectedness. Events thousands of miles away can influence energy markets, security alliances, and humanitarian responsibilities. The war's impact is not confined to one region. Political leaders face increasing pressure to balance diplomacy, deterrence, and humanitarian aid. Decisions made now could shape the conflict's direction. Observers stress the importance of protecting civilians while pursuing long-term stability. As winter continues, concerns grow about heating shortages and further outages. Prolonged cold conditions could worsen the humanitarian situation. Aid groups emphasize the urgency of restoring power. Before temperatures drop further, Ukraine's resilience remains a focal point of international attention. Despite repeated attacks, institutions continue functioning and communities remain organized. This endurance has become a defining feature of the country's response to the ongoing war. The conflict illustrates how modern warfare extends beyond battlefields. Cyber operations, energy disruption, and information campaigns all play significant roles. Civilians often find themselves on the front lines of these non-traditional tactics. As global leaders debate next steps, civilians wait for relief and stability. Each day without power reinforces the urgency of a lasting solution. The humanitarian dimension continues to drive calls for renewed diplomatic engagement. The situation in Ukraine remains fluid, with developments unfolding rapidly. Explosions, blackouts, and resilience define the current chapter of the war. As the world watches, the focus remains on civilian protection and the hope for peace.